we should be ready.
Let's call this meeting of the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee to order. And we'll do a roll call. Sharon, glad you're here. Susan, glad you're here. I'm here. Richard, glad you're here. Jack, glad you're here.
Thank you.
We're missing Patrick and Alina, so that's good. So the first item is petitions, proclamations, suggestions, and complaints. I love this item on the agenda. Anybody have any suggestions? No, we're not taking complaints today, just Lisa, do you have stuff to share with us?
I got a couple upcoming
Okay.
events and news, if you don't mind, committee. The first one I'd like to share with you is the upcoming Victoria Council Candidate Forum. This is hosted by the League of Women Voters, and they've done it the last couple of elections for city council members. It's a great way to hear and learn about the council candidates that are going to be on your ballot in November, especially without the Chanhassen Villager newspaper and the Victoria Gazette. So that is going to be held in person here in council chambers on Wednesday at 7 p.m. It's also going to be broadcasted live, similar to all of our meetings. We'll have it on cable access channel, Mediacom 8, as well as on our YouTube channel to watch live. Afterwards, if people want to watch it after, we are sharing the recording with the League of Women Voters, and then they'll have it on their site so people can watch after that. So there's plenty of time, but it's just a really good way to learn about who's going to be on the ballot.
Do we know how many candidates there are? Or?
We have 3 for city council, and we have 1 for mayor. So if I back that up, we have 1 seat open for mayor. The 1 person that is running is our current mayor, Deborah McMillan. And then we have 2 seats open for city council. There are 3 candidates. The first one is Cam Wright. You may recognize him. He's on our Parks and Recreation Committee. We have Christian Pedersen. He's also on the Planning Commission. He was on Parks and Rec before that. And then last is Chad Roberts. He is our current council member. So it'll be a choice between those 3.
We have 1 council member then that's not running for.
And we have 1 council member that chose not to run. So next on the list is the American Red Cross Blood Drive. That's going to be held next week on September 17th at the Rec Center. This is hosted by the Victoria Fire Department. So if you are interested or know of someone interested, please have them stop by. It's going to run from noon to about 6 p.m.
Question.
Yes, Jack.
Is there a age limit on when you need to stop donating?
That is a great question for the Red Cross. From my knowledge, I don't know of any age limits or anything related to that. But it is run mostly by the Red Cross, so they might have stipulations. I would have to take a look and find that information for you, which I can do that and follow up with you on. And then lastly, speaking of the fire department, they are hosting their community open house in a couple weeks, September 23rd from 5:30 to 8 o'clock. They're going to do a variety of demonstrations, the drone, the grease fire. They're going to have the light tower set up, different demonstrations with other public safety officers such as our CSO and Carver County Sheriffs, and I think they're going to have free hot dogs. So even if you just want to enjoy the meal, you're more than welcome to attend. It is a free event and also a really good activity of all ages, but especially the younger kids too. They'll get a free hat and all that fun stuff. The other piece to that, if you weren't at Donuts in Victoria, that they will be talking about as part of this event is the new fire station building. And just give an update on where the building is at, where it's located if you're not informed on even just the location of it. We're getting pretty far into this design process. You'll even be able to see some photos and images of what the building would look like once it's fully completed.
That'll be good to see because I'm interested in how Holy Family young adults are going to come out of that, enter and exit.
Yes, they'll definitely have parts about the transportation aspects.
Yeah.
Part of it as well.
When are they going to break ground for that? Do you know yet or not?
We're going to do bidding this fall, so it won't be until next year.
And you said that they'll do something with, excuse me, I've got allergies. Because that intersection is somewhat dangerous even now. So there's no roundabout, probably no traffic signal, but
Not at this point.
Okay.
It is a county road, also.
where the fire, right on that, where the fire
That
station-
corner?
Yeah,
Because on the right, I noticed the signs came down, but on the right is the rec center.
yep.
The left is going into Holy Family right now, and that corner says fire station.
That is the corner. Yep.
Yeah.
So they will be talking about,
It'll be interesting to see
Entrances.
that, yeah.
they did recently put a blog post out on the website too, if you're interested in taking a look at that stuff and you're not able to attend the open house. And it shows some of the imagery. Obviously, it talks about the need for the fire station, what's more dear to my heart, the history side of it. They talk about what the old fire stations look like, how we got to where we are today. So it really just the need, the location, and just really what this fire station will be about. So if you're interested, it's right on the homepage and you can find that there.
Related question, is there an official newspaper now for public announcements?
There is, it is the Waconia Patriot or the Sun Patriot, that is the official newspaper. So legally, each city has to adopt a newspaper. Right when the Chanhassen Villager informed us and noticed us of them closing their doors, council officially made the Waconia Patriot the paper for any public notices, legal publications, finance budget that we need to make each year and each time.
Do you know if they will start covering like city council candidates and news items from Victoria now?
Great question. They already have in brief formats. In some of the last couple weekly papers that I've seen, they've tried to get information on all the candidates. The other piece and other news sources that we've been looking at, obviously the League of Women Voters is very important when it comes to this topic, but Minnesota Public Radio is also trying to gather information regarding all candidates across the state. And they've been doing interviews with each of them. We do have a link to that once it becomes available on our website. Because we know that without the newspaper that we've known for the last how many of years, this tends to be a hard thing for people to find information on.
Do we know where the paper's gonna be at? You know, I mean,
We do have physical copies downstairs if anyone is interested.
Yes, I picked them up, yes.
oh, did you?
Probably can get a subscription fairly reasonable, like the Villager. It's a weekly?
It is a weekly paper.
Fairly reasonable.
It's interesting, the first half of the paper is Waconia information. The second half was all city council information that they have to put out and publish. And it was, I don't know how many different city councils.
Yeah.
We're the only paper in this,
County.
So is it
know how
Carver
large.
County? I mean, it would be Carver County City Council.
well, it's not quite that far.
Not Chaska.
Kind of the western, so, yeah, but,
Yeah, I subscribed to the paper when the one closed. And forget what I paid, but it was
It's reasonable.
pretty cheap.
Yeah. Sure would be.
Anything else, Melissa?
Last one is Donuts in Victoria, probably my favorite one to share
Yep.
with you all because it's one of my favorite events that we host here. We do have two coming up this fall. September 18th is going to be related to Get to Know Your CSO. That is a new position with Victoria, and it's our community safety officers. So they are out in the community looking. They have their own car. They're obviously engaging with the community related to safety issues, but they're also responding to any complaints that you might have that are non-police related matters. So things like your garage door is open, or you have your car, or somebody, you can actively see there's a car unlocked, to if there's a dog loose or a beaver in the middle of the trail, those type of things are also responding to those areas as well. So, yes, her name is Rachel. She was at the last Donuts in Victoria related to the fire department, if you did attend that. But you'll get to meet her there in more detail with this upcoming event. And then the next one is on October 16th, so next
Different
month.
time.
And it will be, it should have been 9 o'clock, sorry.
Should it?
Oh, they're
It
both.
should be 9 o'clock.
All right.
Thank you for saying that, Sharon. I do.
I know, I just noticed it's a different time, I just figured.
It is the same time. Wonder if that will fix automatically.
And those being at the rec center are not recorded, so you're not able to view those if you're not there, right?
They are not recorded.
One other thing on those, how has the attendance been at those?
I believe at the fire station, we had about 18 folks that attended. So it ups and downs depending on the topic, but regularly around the 10 mark is probably average.
Okay, and is it a mixed age of people? Don't want to use ageism, I don't want.
I know, we had that little spiel. You mean at the rec center?
No, when the donuts in Victoria.
Yeah, but there's quite a few people there.
I think that also depends on the topic too. At the fire topic we had last month, there was a variety of ages from youth to older adults.
Okay.
Just because the fire demonstrations, we had the fire trucks out, they draws a little bit more. This program is a little bit more geared towards older adults that have the opportunity to come to an early morning shift. So that's typically that audience that we see come to these. This next one in October is related to transportation. I believe we'll probably have a higher attendance for this one as well, because it is quite a big topic for Victoria, knowing that the Highway 5 and subsequent projects are going to be coming relatively soon, and I think people are just interested to hearing more about what that is. So get that one on your calendar as well.
And the donuts are very good.
Well, and I think a lot of people go with
Only the best.
coffee and donuts, I mean, free donuts. I know.
We always make sure we
More
have
for
enough.
us, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is, I should mention this now or later, but I'll mention it now and you can tell me if we should refer this to later. The only reason I ask about that, I'm a big believer in like cross-marketing, whatever. And I have been to one of those. But looking at this, share your feedback with like the QR code. Do you take other information or is anybody there to say, well, these are some other things that are coming up we'd like your feedback on? Because I don't know how much people check the website or look at anything, and the more we can get things out, I'd even be happy to take some stuff to pickleball people. Or is this available at the rec center?
So what we're looking
that
at
might
here
come up
is,
later.
for anyone that hasn't looked at this flyer yet, we are doing a survey on the recreation center, and I have this on a slide later
Okay,
on. But
okay.
all kind of mixed together, Sue, so I think it's perfect time for us to talk about it. This is regarding what the future of the recreation center is going to be, and it also includes the current usage, because we really do want to understand how are people using the space, our programs, but also what are people looking for, like what are we missing, what are the gaps, which gets really important into the conversation of how do we make sure that we have seniors in mind when we're looking at that future use of the space. That being said, we do have a lot of programs now. So one of the things that we are starting to do more of is get that feedback from patrons today on individual programs and events. So things like our more registered events, like if you were part of the T-ball or maybe one of the knitting classes, we solicit feedback to each one of those through just like a registration form. So you put your email in there, and then a survey gets out to you automatically saying, hey, how did you rate this? What would you like to see? What could be different? Kind of those things. Non-registered events, kind of like donuts, is a little bit harder to do, but that's something that we've been talking about as well. Of if there's some sort of flyer that we just have on the table next to the coffee and it says, hey, before you go, just take a quick survey. Let us know how you think about this event. Those are the things that we're talking about now, because we want to make sure we're getting feedback, honest feedback about any of our events that we got going on today, not just about the recreation center as a whole. Very timely, Sue. Appreciate that. I feel like we're on the same wavelength a lot sometimes. So yes. And then the other thing I added onto the agenda is for the folks that were in attendance to the Carver County meeting last week, if they just want to share any insights, if there's anything that stuck out to them as something they want to share with the group, that for the folks that weren't in attendance, or if we can just skip on too. But just thought I wanted to add this on here because we did have that meeting last Friday.
I think it was a very positive meeting. I think all of this, we sat in at tables and so on, and every table had something positive to offer, which is good to hear that they are involved and are working and so on. Even Watertown, I chuckled at the lady sitting by me. They may be a little town, but they certainly have lots of things going on.
And they,
They put us to shame, actually.
well, they want to keep it going.
Yeah,
Good over there. Yeah, we got a lot of insight from different areas. You took good notes. I don't know if I did so well, but in taking notes, yeah.
It was very interactive and good. And who is the gentleman who is a liaison now with the Carver County Office on Aging or Health Department?
Emmanuel is his name.
Is he invited to our meetings?
He is, yep,
Okay.
each one.
He seems to be a good man. Couple things. I mean, the ageism discussion was interesting and informative. It was interesting hearing about the other communities. I think Norwood, Watertown, the staff, Chaska is the only community that doesn't have a senior commission. Everyone else calls them commissions. We're the only ones that call them a committee. Chaska doesn't have that, but their 3 lead park and rec people were there. Chanhassen, I think they had 5 of their commissioners there. The one takeaway, and Patrick actually said this, Watertown was talking about a variety of their activities. And I think why some of the other, in listening to that, I think why some of the other communities maybe offer more, they have more things in their community. Patrick said Watertown's a self-contained community. They have a grocery store, they have a high school, they had a prom, so people, the kids after their prom did events. They really work with other agencies, and their library in Watertown is super active. So they have more resources to draw from. And I forget the lady's name, but she said that their Watertown Council senior commission members are paid. And I don't,
Small state.
and they have representatives from other things. There are 11 people, and they meet monthly, and they're paid. And I didn't want to go there. I've never heard of that, but
she didn't offer how much, however.
no,
Well, she said
a
small
stipend, yeah.
A small stipend.
But anyway, they talked about networking, even Waconia, they have some resources, and they have resources in the community that somewhat support some of the activities of the senior center, or their senior activities. But all in all, it was a good sharing experience. And if Emmanuel can come, he seems like a really good person. So that's all I have. It was informative.
He was talking about how hard he goes to the legislative and how hard it is to recognize seniors still. That was interesting.
Yes. Talked about they don't, the legislator, both on the state level and even, federal government, they don't want, there's not a lot of talk about senior issues. He related one thing. Governor Walz started free lunch for all children in school. And he said they don't ever want to hear about the seniors that need additional support. They're the commodities that you can go in nutrition, even though there are some programs. So it was an interesting listening and sharing experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was glad I went over there because, yeah, it was informative, very much so. To see or hear the other communities and what they do or don't do and how long they've been doing it.
Thank you all for going. It's good to be represented. We ready to move on to the next item on the agenda? We have minutes from June 17th. Somebody want to make a motion to approve those?
I so move.
Thank you, Jack. Is there a second?
I so second.
Richard's the second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. We've got minutes. And we'll move on to old business. We have the rec center presentation.
We do. We actually have old business today.
Yeah.
Maybe if I can get my mouse to work, yes. So I want to recap because it has been a little bit since we talked about this last at our mid-June meeting, because we did end up switching that one. So just for some background, what we are looking at here today and just overall in the future is the future of the recreation center. The recreation center, if you haven't been to that facility yet, it is a recreation-focused facility that happens to be right in the middle of Victoria. It was built in 2002. So we're a couple years over our 20-year anniversary of the recreation center. If you've been there, you know what happens to be in the facility. We have a fitness center or gym. We also have two full-size gymnasiums. So think basketball court, gymnasium. There's a couple of meeting rooms that people can rent and utilize. And there's also a walking track. So that is available free and open to the public. So if anyone wants to just come and walk, especially in the winter months, it's a great resource for that. And then we also have two sheets of ice, one ice arena, 2 sheets of ice that are within this facility. For the ice arena side, we do have a partnership with the Eastern Carver County School District 112. They more or less own and manage and operate that section, the sheets of ice for the recreation center, as well as other pieces of the space. Now, the partnership with them, that contract that we have, is going to be coming to end of life in 2032. We're nearing 7 years away from that, so we're relatively close. And what we're looking at now is, because we know that partnership is ending soon, and we do not know if that will continue on after the 2032 mark, we're just trying to understand, what do we want the future of that space to be? Even with the sheets of ice off the table, if we don't touch the sheets of ice, if they continue to be sheets of ice, if the school district continues to manage them, we still want to take ownership of the city's side, the lobby space, the fitness center space, the meeting room space, the locker room space, all those other amenities that we have, and ensure that they're being programmed successfully and they actually meet the needs of the community. So we're just, talking through that piece of it as we're looking at you all on the committees. We're also talking about this at the Parks and Recreation Committee as well. Just trying to gather feedback into what is this space potentially could be. And on your, sitting at your seats, how can we ensure that senior folk are represented as part of the recreation center's future, not necessarily as something that we're forgetting about. But Sue, I know you had your hand up.
Is with the Park and Rec Commission or on the city staff level, has there been any discussion if that any funds will be available to reimagine that recreation center? Are you working in the confounds of the present space with no money available?
So great question. So just to back that up 1 second for those folks that aren't necessarily knowledgeable about the recreation center piece, is right now the recreation center is self-sufficient. There are zero taxpayer dollars, the city taxpayer dollars, that go into financing this space. So it is any membership fees, any rental fees cover the costs to make sure that the recreation center sustains itself. Operations, roof repairs, any of those things, it all gets generated back into its own fund. So I just want to say that on the table, just so we're clear on that piece.
Includes the pickleball courts that they've expanded and so on?
Interesting enough, so no, that's a great question too, and that kind of gets into the whole finance piece as well. The recreation center as a building sits on Detone Park. So Detone Park is all the amenities outside of the recreation center. That is part of the general city fund. It's part of the park district area. So like that is not included when we talk recreation center. We are talking about the actual interior of the building. That being said, we know that we don't live in a vacuum, so the things that are offered outside of the recreation center within D-Town Park, that includes the parking lots, the pickleball courts, the playground, the ball fields, the soccer fields, people don't differentiate each other one for one. So they, even though they're not necessarily paid for through the same fund, people still think about them as recreation center amenities. So getting back to the question about has there been discussion about finance? Not yet. I think this is kind of what council wants to hear first. They want to make sure that they're not pulling the horse, the wagon's not pulling the horse, but the other way around. So they want to know, what does the community look for this space? So then we can generate a financial plan to make sure that we're obtaining that goal. So right now we're just mostly in the research stage, hearing from the community, hence the reason the survey is coming out, because we want to ensure that we're getting feedback from the community about what does the future of this space look like. We're hearing from our committee members, acting as more of a focus group at this point of saying like, hey, what do we know? What have we heard from our neighbors? What have we heard from the community? We talk about that a lot. Like right now we don't have a senior center. If we don't build a specific senior center, there is an importance to make sure that we have those type of facilities within this space. And what are those needs? What do we want in that area? So that hopefully answers your question long-windedly.
The employees at the rec center, at the front desk, for instance, and those who work around, they were doing repairs when we were there for donuts a while back. Who pays them? I'll just ask at that.
Yeah, that's a great question too. The front desk staff, so when you walk into the recreation center, we have a front desk. There's either one or two, maybe sometimes three during our busy hockey seasons, individuals that are there to check you in, answer any questions. If you have to pay for something, they can help you out with that too. They also do walk-around checks, so you'll probably see them wandering around the building with a checklist, making sure that things are kept tidy. Sometimes they do cleaning. They are paid through a partnership with the school district and the city, so it's a mix of both. We also have recreation center or parks and recreation department staff that are based out of the recreation center, which are based on kind of a mixed formula of school district and the city as well. So it's a combo, but you'll see them sitting out there as well.
Alyssa, is there a chance that the city or the school district will pull out of that agreement? And that space will be sitting there, and who owns the space then if they separate?
We have not heard, and we have regularly conversations with the school district, probably monthly, but I think we're moving that to quarterly right now. They have not indicated that they're interested in pulling out. If that is the case, the city would own that space. It is a city building through a very substantial lease agreement that the school district owns. There's related to bonding, they're paying for the bonding payments of the ice arena because they wanted to build the second sheet of ice. So there's some complexities financial wise. If at the end of the day, if the school district says we're out of here, the city would own that.
You had mentioned, go ahead.
Well, that's just pretty important information. If that space, if we wind up owning that space, that's a big difference from just working on the rest of the facility.
Yes. It is a combo of both, though. We want to make sure that we're looking at the whole picture, of course. But we also want to make sure that even if the school district does stay with the 2 sheets of ice, that we have a game plan for the rest of the building. So it's a combo of both. But you're absolutely right. It is very important to consider the sheets of ice as part of this discussion, too.
Well, with that being said, isn't Chan building a big sports center?
Not confirmed. It is on the ballot in November.
Oh, okay.
It is a referendum.
Because isn't that our rec center? Chan plays their high school hockey
They do.
games there?
Yep, they do.
So I was wondering, yeah, okay.
You mentioned that the rec center is self-sufficient funding. What is the breakdown of where funds come from? Is the majority of the money that helps sustain that building comes from the ice arena, Holy Family renting it, the other places that rent it is because I can't imagine the fitness center memberships paid, or what, do you know the breakdown?
Yes, I don't know the breakdown
course.
offhand. Obviously, that is more of a council discussion. And actually, they will be talking about that at an upcoming budget workshop in the next coming months because the rec center enterprise account is something that they talk about substantially. The majority of the income
Comes from the
related,
ICE?
yes and no. It actually comes from the bonding payments as part of the
Okay.
contract through the school district, as well as other payments that the school district has to pay through the lease agreement. So yes, kind of the ICE because they use the ICE, but it's not necessarily from ICE rentals.
And how about like all the younger kids who play hockey, who practice there?
They rent.
I'm sure they pay a certain amount each fall or whenever, but now where does that money fit into this whole arrangement?
Yes, so anything that ever touches the ice actually is a school district related matter. So they get to set their own fees. They actually have an ice arena manager, Gunner, who operates out of the rec center as well. And they have a building maintenance staff custodian that operates out of that building. And they manage all the scheduling related to the ice, as well as the upkeep.
So is it the city who, like right outside in the lobby area, there's tables and stools, chairs. Who's in charge of the upkeep of those? The city?
Right outside of the ice arena, there is like stools and chairs. That is on the school district. If you walk into the building,
wondered.
yeah, there's like it's not necessarily the line, because the contract has very specific language, but just for simplicity, what we try and think about, there's a section, is kind of right where the vending machines are, right when you walk into the building, and there's a sign right above it that says Eastern Carver County Schools Ice Arena. Anything past that sign is more or less 100% managed by the school district. Everything outside of that, there's a mixed combo.
So the concession stand is,
School district.
yeah.
What about the locker rooms?
Depends on which one. We have quite a few.
I know, and
But the
that's,
general locker rooms that you've probably seen, because the majority of our locker rooms, we might have probably 6. Most of those are ice arena related. So unless you're playing hockey or you're out for open skate, you probably haven't touched those. The 2 that are closest to the fitness center, those are the cities.
and you had one time mentioned that locker rooms weren't used that much. I mean, there were too many locker rooms built, but, so those really don't come into the discussion about how you could use space at the rec center. Those locker rooms aren't going anywhere.
They could be up for discussion.
Okay.
They absolutely could be.
Okay.
So when we're thinking about future of this space, obviously we do have to think of the we have to think about, the space itself, so we can't necessarily all of a sudden build things that we don't have space for, but we like to be creative. So if there are things like an art studio or a wood shop or whatever we think about, I think it's worth having the conversation, even if it's too big or too small, because we can be creative with the spaces that we do have. And knowing that the ice arenas will be up for play potentially in 2032, I think it's worth us having that conversation as well, because we do know there is potential for space availability. We also have a large park that's surrounding it. D-Town Park is like 40-something acres, if I can recall that off the top of my head. So there is space to expand too. It really depends on what is the community looking for. We don't necessarily want to cap us right now based on space or budget. We just really want to get good feedback of what people are looking for. So that's kind of where we're at this specific moment. One of the other pieces that I do want to mention, oh, it's not working here, is yes, I'm gathering your feedback from the last conversation, but also today's conversation. If we do want to continue this, we can bring it up at future meetings too, because we have time. But make sure you take the survey. Hence the reason I set it on your desk. I do have extra copies if anyone wants to bring some with them. This obviously talks about, like we mentioned, the future use of this space. It talks about programming, what programming we'd like to see, and I think that's also part of this conversation that we have as well. We've talked that we don't necessarily have the programming that we'd like to see here, so making sure that we're having this conversation too. Programming and facility programming go hand in hand, because if you don't have the space to do it, then you can't obviously program for the space. So make sure you take this independently as well. We want to make sure that everyone's voices are heard as part of this. And if you know neighbors, anyone, we want to make sure everyone is taking the survey. Even if they don't live here, we have patrons that visit the space quite regularly, whether they're here for events like the Red Cross Blood event or ICE. We want to make sure that anyone that uses that space or potentially might want to use that space or don't use that space that are Victoria resident, we want to make sure that their voices are heard. So do not hesitate to share this information out.
Will the survey include the information about the, I'll just say Chanhassen High School owning or using the rec center? Will that be included? Because if they would pull out as a younger family with small kids, I certainly would want them available, an ice rink for them to learn to play hockey.
We do not have that specific question on there. What we do have is just an interest of, are people using the ice arena? If they are, what are they using it for? If they're not, why aren't they using it? We really want to ensure that like things like open skate that we do have, are we offering the right times? Are we not offering the right programs? We don't have a learn to skate program. Is that something people would be interested in? So it's more or less getting to your question, Jack. We want to make sure that people are using the space and that we have interest in the space without necessarily asking, hey, this might go away, because we don't know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alyssa, could you give us a quick update on I think it's the Victoria Downtown West project? The open space there, because we've had discussions about potential use there. That could make a big difference on the programming you would put in the rec center, depending on what happens there.
It's a great question, and actually it's going to go before council this evening, so I am not as up to date on specifically the status of that project, but I do know it's on the regular item. It's a regular item for city council this night. What I can do is after the meeting this evening is I can share that information with you, just because I'm not 100% sure of it myself on the exact status of where that project's at. So I'd be happy to share that information to you once I have it in my hands.
I'm going to ask a personal question. The Dairy Queen there on the corner, it says they're remodeling or whatever. Are they just going out of business? Has the roundabout bought up that?
All we've heard, same as you, is that they're just remodeling.
Okay.
Yesterday I went by there 2 days ago and they actually have a new something in their parking lot that looks like they could possibly be remodeling, but.
Okay,
Like-
I've been wondering.
Couple questions back to the rec center. Well, first of all, in order to do increased programming or get needs, is there going to be devotion of any more park and rec staff to look at some programming? Because you can reimagine the space, but the senior programming is quite limited now. So, and I know it's been a transition, so has that been discussed at all?
Yes, it has. And I think that, one, it gets into that larger picture of like, we want to make sure we're offering the right programs, so then we have to make sure we're providing enough resources to offer that program, whether it's space, budget, or even staff. That's a good add. The other piece I do want to let you know is that we are hiring for a new recreation coordinator. So we do have, previously we only had 2 Parks and Rec staff on hand, meaning like 2 years ago. We hired a parks director this year. We hired a new recreation coordinator this year, and then we're hiring our first second. So we'll have 3 full-time positions, not including, we did bump up Brenda. You may have seen her at the Recreation Center. So she is now a full-time staff. So we went from 2 to 4 within the last year to help offer more programs and help boost our facility usage, because we know that we can do more with our programming if we have enough.
Well, on all ends. I mean, the kids' programs, when I play pickleball, were booming this summer. I mean, the city's growing dramatically.
Yes.
I have a lot of questions.
I love it.
So this is available, and we have to take responsibility to go to the city website to find this information. I know they talked at the meeting last week, a couple cities, Watertown specifically, and one other one. You know, it was a discussion about some older adults, seniors, whatever we are, aren't real technology, I mean, not technology, blah, blah, blah. And so they do, I mean, they mail surveys, like, or something, can you stick anything with their utility bills? Talked about that as another way to get it out there. So I don't know about that. Also, I know with the new building in Chanhassen, the Victoria Rec Center is, I mean, we've got City Hall, we've got the fire station now, a new fire station, and the rec center is probably one of the most notably recognized and used buildings. This is, so it's a big topic where I'm going, is there any plans ever to have an open house? Do you have them for transportation issues? Have an open house? Now, I know the turnout might not be great, but, you know, this is a big impact. I mean, it's the one building we have in our community that can be used by any age group. Has that been talked about?
Yeah, briefly as like a potential Donuts in Victoria, knowing that we're hitting that audience of, hey, we have this upcoming project that we know is going to impact us, or not necessarily project, but we know that we have this topic that is important. Let's talk about it, have a discussion like we are here today, and hear people's feedback. So yeah, that has been a conversation. The other thought that we had is having something once the survey is complete too, to go through some results with the community. So it's like, we heard you, these are the steps that we're now taking as well.
Online surveys don't draw a high percentage of people, do they? Or does it
actually
depend
do.
on the topic?
Yeah, it depends on the topic, but for our large mailed community survey, we had about 600 respondents. So that went out to the larger mass community out of a population of 12,000. That's pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
But to put it in perspective, we had our park survey came out last year around this time. We had 200. So when you're thinking about that was done internally, we did it just through internal advertising, online surveys. We had signage. You'll see signage for this survey too. We had really good high number results comparative to our community survey. This one, we broke 100 probably about a month ago, 3 weeks ago. So we're seeing that increase of responses just similar to the park survey.
Having played pickleball this morning, by the time I left, every court was full, and I left early. But is there, I mean, and yes, you get people from all over, but they're users, and when the winter or cooler months come, they actually pay a fee to. Yeah. So, is there any way? I'm just thinking, being marketing. How do we reach those people? Could us commissioners have a little table out and say, or can you build or have something in the recreation center? Signage. We want your feedback. I mean, just more awareness of this survey, because if you're not aware of it, and unless you go to the city website, you have no way of knowing.
Yeah.
Well, I know you guys have things on the trails, because when I walk, they have
Oh, about taking the survey?
a picture of that. Yeah.
Oh, great. Great.
You may even see one at D-Town Park by the pickleball courts. Maybe. I'm trying to think off the top of my head if one was placed there. But we did try and strategically place them throughout the trail
Okay.
system and the park system too.
Yeah, they're on 18 also. Because when I walk down that,
Yeah.
they're down
The
there.
trail.
I ride my bike. I go kind of fast down there.
Yeah, see.
You're getting ready for pickleball. You got to.
I learned something. I was in Waconia. My one daughter lives there, and I had my grandkids at the Dairy Queen, and that's right off Highway 5. And we walked on, there's a path, and they had a bike repair station. I thought it was the coolest thing. And apparently, there's one right here. I'm right, and that must be a Three Rivers Park thing, it was pretty cool.
We have two in our community. The one is owned by Three Rivers Park District, and I'll actually put an asterisk on that too, and I'll get back to that in a second, because that is information not necessarily related, but tangents. And then the other one is over in Lions Park. We worked with a local Boy Scout who was working on his Eagle Scout project, so that is one of the things that we have on our list. If Eagle Scouts offer, if they want to do a project, that is something that we try and work with them on, because it is a really nice feature to have in our community, and it's a great program for potential Eagle Scouts, potential Gold Award members for Girl Scouts to give back. And for Eagle Scouts for Gold Awards, there's a lot of series of things that they have to commit to, and project management, which it's a really good item for them to check all those boxes off. Related to that, you may have heard through the news sources that Carver County Park District actually just purchased that section of trails, so Kirklocken through Victoria, the Lake Minnetonka Regional Trail from Three Rivers Park District to include it as part of their trail system. So you will see signs going up. They did take down signage because it was Three Rivers Park signage, and they will be replacing it with Carver County signage, as well as other signs you'll probably see up that are more Carver County brand. So yes, that section is, I think they actually just finished the purchase. So the bike repair station was originally put up by Three Rivers Park, but now it is now owned and operated by Carver County Park District. So, yes.
Is there any information anywhere to tell bikers where they can get their bikes fixed?
We have things related to that on our website. One of the things we worked on
the
last
website,
week,
yeah.
we tried to put out all of our park amenities, so there's a one-stop list of where all of our amenities are. Same thing with basketball courts. If you're looking for basketball courts, we have a list of where all of them are in the city. That's the other thing on our park and trail map. We're having to modify it because we have new parks and new trails obviously coming through. We want to make sure we include those little features as well. So that is something that we have or working on too. But.
Speaking of that, that's again a communication type problem, but I suppose that the bikers and all of those would be younger people who are pretty good with their computers and so on, so they could find a bike repair shop or whatever.
You would hope, yeah. There's a part of it where you try and push out as much information as you can.
Unfortunately, you don't need that that information is kind of not real necessary until you need it, and then it becomes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We also worked this year in May. This is the second year we've done it. Is we've worked with a nonprofit based out of Chanhassen that does its Project Life Cycle. So they come in and do a bike repair station every single May, right at the beginning of season. So hopefully you avoid needing to do bike repairs halfway through the year. Obviously, things happen. But we try and make sure that we're working with folks to get their bikes repaired or tires, fixed well ahead of the season end.
Good.
Yes. The other piece related to this conversation that I wanted to make sure we touch base on is those tours, and seeing if there's any. Obviously, I know Sharon, you took the opportunity to take some of those independently, but if there's any more assistance we need from staff related to helping. With that, I can send as many emails out, but I think during the summer it was a challenge with scheduling to actually get something on the calendar for folks. Hence the reason that I just pushed out, if someone wants to take the opportunity to do it themselves, they are absolutely able to do that. And I just wanted to see if there's anything, one, staff needed, or you need from staff to help with that. And two, if anyone did do any independent tours, if they just want to share maybe what they've learned.
I went to the lodge in Chaska, and that's probably the most concerned one for seniors, I think.
The most what?
It's the most, they facilitate the most activities for seniors. I mean, it was they have a nice schedule, and they do a lot for both male and female seniors. I went over to Chan, but they're transitioning, so that was kind of a not a good visit. It wouldn't really be their regular way they facilitate things over there for seniors. But, I mean, I'm sure Chanhassen will be doing okay. I didn't go as far as Edina. Has someone been to Edina? Yeah. Waconia was closed when I went over there. I don't know if they didn't have people that day. I went on a Wednesday. So, and it was all 9:30, going on 10 o'clock, so I don't know if they just didn't have people there.
Maybe. One of the things I've talked to Waconia about in past conversation is they have struggled, since it is a new facility, just getting people to come. So that is one of the things that they are
might have
working
been
on.
one of the things, yeah.
So I've been to Waconia, Chaska, Edina, Eden Prairie, Minnetonka, and South Shore. Well, in the past. South Shore, which is right on the corner of 19, it's kind of in Excelsior or Tonka Bay, but that's now a shared space, and it's not used as much as it used to,
Saw that.
as it has been. Minnetonka is part of their, it's off of the road. I can't remember the road. But they're part, have you ever been there? I think it's part of their city hall, and they have dedicated space. They have numerous rooms. Actually, Nancy Swanson, our old member, goes to activities there, and she brought, gave me a newsletter. But they're very active. They have bike clubs, they have pickleball, they have art classes, they have wood shop, they do classes. But that is not a standalone building. Edina is not a standalone building. Waconia is not a standalone building. None of them are standalone buildings anymore. Actually, one in Mound, or called the Gillespie Center, is a standalone building, but they have to do a lot of fundraising to keep it going. So I think the idea of incorporating it with another city entity or building is a good thing in the way a lot of these other senior center operate. The new one in Chanhassen's basically going to be, I think it's about 32,000. Would that be a lot?
100.
100. That would be a big building. It's going to be the lower level of the city hall, but with the total revamp. And Chaska right now, I think, is, because of their proximity, they have a lot of fitness classes. They have a pool, but they do a good job at programming both in-house and out-of-house. And but then again, they have senior apartment buildings to draw from. They also have a partnership with the city of Carver, and they do some of their programming at the Carver, like City Hall and all that. But so they're all kind of incorporated. They all have a different feel and a different level of activity. Actually, I lied. Eden Prairie is a standalone senior center. So, but it's an older building too.
Yeah, that's,
So any of their fitness facilities, they use the City of Eden Prairie, like Recreation Center, which I think is by the high school or around there. So
They have a woodworking facility.
woodworking. They're woodworking, they do their classes, they do, classes, some of their programs. And to my knowledge, none of them have home-delivered meals in their centers anymore. A lot of them used to do that, but they don't anymore. It's not a congregate meal site. They all only do home-delivered meals.
I was impressed with Eden Prairie. I go there to have my toenails clipped and so on, and I walked in, and there are individual little rooms as you walk up from downstairs. I hate to say it this way, but it seemed like there was one room that had all men in it drinking coffee, and a different room where the ladies were either playing cards or knitting or whatever. But every time I've gone, there have been a number of people just casually enjoying the facility and each other.
It is funny because when I was there at Chaska, the men were separated from the women. having coffee. They have there, it's kind of neat because they can come out of their exercise class, whatever they're doing, and then they come into the coffee bar area. But the men were all in one section up tables and the women were in the other. Yeah.
So today, do you want us to take the survey but not really talk anymore about any thoughts or anything in the immediate future? I mean, just kind of wait for the survey, and do you have a deadline for the survey results?
The survey is going to be mid-October. Gosh, I'm trying to think of the exact date off the top of my head. Pulling up a calendar. I believe it's October 11th, that Friday, second week in October. Related to immediate, I loved hearing your guys' thoughts and feedback. Obviously, we've talked extensively about providing, as you guys mentioned, the community spaces, the coffee spaces for individuals to just come together and then have coffee, maybe do some minor programming. We do have a space that might be a really good fit for that in our lobby area at the recreation center. We currently have operating out of there small pieces of furniture, but they're definitely not adequate to that space. We know that we need to revamp the lobby section of the recreation center. So that is one thing that we're thinking through. And it also has a little library. If you've been there, they have the library kiosk in that space. So it might be a really good fit to have, you know, that coffee bar section, that space for people to congregate naturally. And then we could program maybe coffee hour, maybe we move Donuts in Victoria there, maybe we bring other speakers just to have that space once we build that community resource out of that area. And then obviously if we do larger programming, you can utilize like the multi-purpose room, which is the meeting room that's right here. No, we do not operate childcare out of there. That's just kind of how the map lays it out. If we were to do something in this space and have furniture available, are there other amenities, things that we would like to have operating out of that space to, obviously we think storage. So if there's need for having, you know, people sometimes just want to play games or have crafts in that area or just something to do. Are there things that we should be thinking about providing as part of that space? Is there furniture that would make most sense for this space? Obviously, you could put high-top tables and chairs, but that might not be the most useful. You could have booths, tables, whatever have you in this space as well.
So if it's basically a senior area, I don't think we want high-top tables and high-top chairs.
And I would even say it could be open for everybody. I would like to see it, since it is in a space. What we also find is that people might be working out and just need to take a break. They have a cup of coffee. We have folks during hockey games or parents during hockey practice that need a space to work in the evening times. So it could be multi-use, but knowing during specific hours, we kind of have this laid out and programmed for older adults.
So the rec center, in my eyes, is two different. On a weekend, I don't go there. Well, I might go early in the morning because there's parking's hard. There's hockey. It's a whole different ball of wax. And then even in the evening, you know, once you get more into hockey season, it's pretty much hockey related. They must have started last night. That parking lot was full. But anyway, that space.
Yeah, they're for a couple of weeks now. Yeah. They've been running the arenas.
I think that's a good idea. Does the city want to offer coffee to all these hockey people on the weekend? I mean, I'm not, but there's a lot of people running around there. And, but I think some tables, some chairs, pickleball people probably would hang around. The exercise class people might, and, you know, that building's occupied a lot during the day. So I don't know everything that goes on when I'm not there, but I think it would be a good space to try something. At some point, I guess I'll say this, at some point should, we, and I don't know what it would be, but we as a senior committee look to helpers when you get a new recreation, was it manager? Coordinator hired. Some programming is important. And what would that programming be? You know, I keep thinking something to grab people. You know, maybe a driver safety class. I know those were tried years ago. Holly tried them because that gives you an insurance discount for your car. Or some educational thing. Or one thing looking at this, I don't know if it was Watertown or somebody, they offered a class, well, Patrick was saying they offered some technology classes for seniors, not very well attended. But they've had somebody requested, what does a QR code mean? How do you scan it? What can it do? So if we maybe can collectively come up with something that might be something we think might grab people or interest and slowly try to build up some participate, come for free coffee, hear about this, hear about that. I don't know, but do you kind of think we need to start somewhere?
Yeah, I think if we have the space, then you can really program.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, Sue, you start doing these programs, you know, if you build it, they will come.
Right.
It just takes some time for us to do those activities. We actually had a 55 Alive class, or the driver safety class, the discount that Laura O'Neill at Cornerstone has. And it was full, yes. So those are things, you know, we can work with those partners to make sure that we have those classes available.
They're very easy to do.
And yes, they are. A lot of it's a video, surprisingly, yes. But you need somebody to help manage that and partner with you. So like those are things that you can create these spaces, have those coffee hours, create those areas where you can have a QR code class, or maybe just a 1 hour game day or 2 hour game day where you just have those things available, and then people can bring their friends. They can sit after pickleball class, drink coffee, those type of natural gathering spaces that you have the people.
Then you start generating.
Then you start generating, yes. And I think this committee will be really helpful to helping make sure this gets off the ground and successful through your power of communication.
Part of that is I'm surprised I get on my computer the mayor's information from Chanhassen every month, and I wondered how in the world did they ever get my email address? And then it dawned on me. I went to one of the 55 and over driver things way back when, and they asked for my name and email and so on. So I get lots of Chanhassen news, and it's and they have a lot of different meetings and so on, including the senior center that you come and have coffee or listen to go come for a movie, for example.
Yeah. Apparently you can't do email blasts. I mean, that recreation center has a pretty active list of emails. I don't know if it's a HIPAA thing or whatever, but that would be a good way to communicate. But my last question, I promise. So that driver safety, easy to do. It's done by the Minnesota Safety Council, very easy. But with this meeting room, that's childcare meeting room, is there any technology in there as far as like a drop screen or a TV, or could that be gotten in there? Because a lot of programs need some type of technology like that, and that would be a great addition if it isn't in there to add.
We have 2 TV carts, one in this space. But the nice thing about having it be on a TV cart is that it can be moved. So if there is a need to put it in the gymnasium or in the fitness center, or even in the lobby area, we have that capability. But it sits and it lives in that room just so if people want to use it to plug in or watch something or whatnot, have you? Yes. AV is very important, and we know more and more as we're renting this space out or programming this space that more people are looking for that technology component.
There's not a Is there a board behind the recreation center? There's not like a teleprompter board that, or is there any electronic thing that, I know Chan or a couple places did it, like where, or they have a TV or sign up for this or that. They don't have that, do they? Or
Digital signage, we do, it is above the front desk. If you look, we are looking to revamp that. Right now, we're using a program that we're slowly transitioning away from to be larger print because it is kind of small and hard to read. We can't necessarily program it the way we want it to, so it's probably going to look similar to what you see outside here as well as downstairs. But yes, we do. We're also looking at what other opportunities do we have to add an additional kiosk elsewhere in the facility that can be programmed. But I also know that we're short on time, and that we're past the 11 o'clock. So I want to make sure that we're aware of the time that we have. And I just want to thank you for this conversation. Thanks for the people that have gone through tours or just the insight that you might have. And know that this conversation will continue on. These are great ideas, great conversation for us specifically to hear, because it is important that we're keeping these at top of mind and that we know what you all are thinking and what your neighbors are thinking and your friends. So thank you.
could we add on the November, December agenda? I'm sure you'll share the survey results, or what's next as far as possible senior programming, or what's next, even to use in the short term before, well, share the results and maybe short-term things to attract more active older adults.
We can do that.
Is there any way sort of going along with that we could invite guests to come and listen to our meeting? All these things we've been talking about today are certainly community-wide information, and that would be a way of spreading it out a little bit or making people aware if they're interested. That's the big hang-up.
Yeah. Yes, all these meetings are open to the public. Obviously, we televise them too, so we want to make sure that if people are interested and they want to come, that they know that you're more than welcome to fill up our council chambers. We are happy to have as many people show up. So if you do know of anyone or you think of a group that might be really good to know about, please invite them here. There's a new contact that we have for Able Light. So she wasn't able to make it specifically today, but I have included her on all the invitations, as well as obviously Patrick and Emmanuel from Carver County, to make sure that if they're interested, if they're able, time constraints obviously can occur, but they can come and participate in these meetings too.
I promise, last thing.
We're good.
So in thinking what attracts people, flu shot clinics are super easy to have. I know Chan is doing one, everyone, of course, and that's something in the future to think about. You work with Ridgeview, you get a home health care provider. They do it, and that's a service to our community. And it can be any age group, because we don't really have any medical or pharmacies right here to do that. So that would be something to think about for the future.
Good point.
I know our time is getting past, but we're all pretty relaxed here. So two comments or questions, Alyssa. We have 4 FTE staff now at the rec center.
Will be, yes. As soon as we hire our last one, yes.
Are any of those dedicated or percentage of their time to senior citizen activities?
I'm so glad you asked that. So this new hire will have dedicated towards, not fully dedicated, but partially dedicated to senior programming. I will also be inviting that person to attend these committee meetings so you can get to know them more. And when we talk about programming needs, once we get them settled and really fully onboarded, really start listening to these conversations, being part of these conversations to help push out some of these senior programming offerings.
Glad to hear that.
Yes.
Number 2, have we ever done a kind of a utilization study, to just head counts to see how many people are in that building and what they're doing, like for a week or 2 weeks or a representative period of time?
Yes, that is one of the things that Thankfully, through what we have our programming software. So when you do enter the recreation center, whether it's a registrant user or you're just checking in or like coming in for the day, you do have to check in with the front desk, and our software does have some of those statistics available to us. So we do get pretty somewhat accurate utilization rates for each of the spaces as well as our programs, even including, which is nice to have, times.
Yeah.
Days of the week people are checking in. So those are the things, as we're preparing for having this conversation with city council too, gathering all this information. What is the community saying? What is our building utilization rates saying? How are people attending our programs, and packaging that all up to make sure that we're having accurate data and a full picture of the space before council can make any bigger decisions.
Is that summarized somewhere in a report?
Not yet, we're working on it, yes.
We could look at the report and say, well,
That's what we're hoping, yep.
Yeah.
We can get that out there.
that would be helpful.
You didn't mention the hockey, or, I mean, is that, okay.
We are working with the school district. They also have similar utilization rates, so we're able to get that too. And they're not just doing it for us based on an average, they're doing it based on an average for the hockey season and the non-hockey season rates too. So we have summer versus the hockey season too, which is nice.
That's good. Very helpful.
It is.
I think we're ready to adjourn. Anybody have any other comments, other topics you want to talk about? Short time. Let's have a motion then to adjourn. Somebody want to move that?
So moved to adjourn.
Sue, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have all 4 members now participating and moving and seconding. Thank you, Sharon. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you.